My youngest uncle, who loved strange costumes, once went into the back mountain and caught a black female bear. He locked her in his own room, and every night I could hear her cries echoing through the house. A few months later, the black bear gave birth to 3 cubs. They grew fast, and the soft fur on their heads looked unnervingly like human hair. Grandfather laughed that if we raised them and later sold their skin and meat, we could earn a lot of money. As soon as he finished, the mother bear lifted her head, looked at him, then at me, eyes glinting as if she understood. Then she lowered her head again, gently licking the cubs beside her as if comforting them. Grandmother said that when we had money, we would find my Uncle Xuan Shan a pretty, educated wife. Xuan Shan was my uncle's name, the one everyone in the village liked to mock. He was born with a bad left foot, and though tall, he was nearly 30 with no wife, so everyone laughed at him. He stared gloomily at the 3 cubs and suddenly said they should all be killed. Grandmother forced a smile, asking what was wrong, saying she and grandfather could raise them instead. She even offered to move the bears into their room so they would not disturb his rest at night. Grandfather agreed, saying that if they were raised and sold later, the money could treat his illness and pay for his marriage, so he must not be foolish. Uncle clenched his fists, face dark, and after a long moment growled that these were deformed cubs doomed to die. He told them to look at their paws and mouths, saying nothing about them was normal, as if they had been cursed. Grandmother paused, then whispered that even strange cubs could still be raised and sold for money. Hearing that, Uncle stamped his foot and shouted that if they were not killed, he would burn the house and leave. Then he rushed into the pen, grabbed all 3 cubs, and hurled them out of the enclosure. The sleeping cubs hit the ground and cried out in pain. Their thin cries cut straight through the yard. Grandmother ran to scoop them up, heart aching, while I noticed something strange. The mother bear did not attack my uncle at all. She only stared at him, as if silently memorizing him. After checking the cubs, grandmother scolded uncle, saying they were clearly alive and well. Uncle muttered that deformed cubs could not be raised and that it was better to kill them for meat than waste food. Grandfather rushed forward to stop him, and for a moment the adults were all pulling and struggling in the yard. I was still a child, too scared to help, and could only stand there frozen. Then I suddenly felt a pair of eyes on my back. I turned around and saw the mother bear staring at me, drool hanging at the corner of her mouth. Her eyes were slightly red, and fear surged up inside me, making me step back instinctively. The mother bear seemed to notice my fear. For a moment, a strange glimmer of pride flashed in her eyes, sending a cold shiver down my spine. Even though Uncle starved her, sometimes feeding her only once in more than 10 days, I still felt she would one day grow back claws and fangs. And when that day came, she would tear our whole house apart. Uncle snatched 1 cub from grandmother's arms and ruthlessly twisted its neck until it stopped moving. Grandfather frowned deeply, helpless. He could only sigh that Uncle was nearly 30 and should at least understand responsibility. But Uncle acted as if he had heard nothing. He went back into his room, fetched a knife, skinned the dead cub, and chopped the meat before throwing it into a pot. As he worked, he grumbled that he would soon kill the other 2, because freak cubs should not be allowed to live. Soon the pot was full, and the smell of boiling meat spread across the entire yard. I could not help swallowing my saliva. I wanted to taste the soup, but did not dare say it aloud. Uncle scooped out the meat and ate it alone, leaving only bones. He tossed the bones into the bear's enclosure. The sound of her grinding them made my back go cold. Grandfather stamped his foot and shouted at Uncle, demanding who let him feed bones to the bear. He warned that once it tasted meat and blood, it would sooner or later turn to eating people. From the day the bear was brought home, my family had never fed it meat or even bones, just so it would forget that taste. Uncle only frowned and said there was nothing to fear, that this bear had no claws and no fangs and was not even as dangerous as a pig. His words made grandfather's anger burst. He raised his hand and slapped Uncle across the face. Uncle was stunned, then tried to fight back, but he could never beat his father. Soon grandfather went inside, took a rope, tied Uncle up, and locked him in a room. Then he called out to grandmother, telling her to summon the villagers to come and kill the bear. Grandmother froze for a moment. She asked if killing the mother bear now would mean the newborn cubs would have no chance at all. Grandfather sighed and said there was no time to think so much, that keeping the bear would be a disaster sooner or later. As his voice faded, the mother bear raised her head, gave us a look, and suddenly spat out all the bones she had swallowed. She rolled back and forth on the ground, as if her stomach was in terrible pain, groaning low and heavy. Grandmother was stunned, then slowly smiled and told grandfather to look, saying the bear could not stand the taste of meat and had thrown it all up. Grandfather narrowed his eyes, watching the bear closely, his expression still half doubtful. After a while, the bear slowly got up, glanced at the bones, then backed into a corner, clearly afraid to approach them. I heard grandmother quietly tell him that it seemed the bear no longer liked meat and maybe they could keep raising it. Grandfather only frowned deeper and said to be sure they still needed to test it with fresh meat. Grandmother's face changed at once. She asked where they could get fresh meat, and grandfather told her to kill one of the hens. He went into the coop, caught a laying hen, killed it, and tossed the still bleeding body into the bear's pen. The bear's eyes moved slowly as she leaned close to sniff the hen, then suddenly recoiled as if disgusted by the smell. She let out a few dry, hoarse sounds as though she was gagging and refused to take a bite. Seeing that the bear would not eat the hen, grandfather's face finally eased a little. Grandmother quickly entered the pen, picked the hen up, holding it with obvious heartache. She said it was such a waste to kill a good laying hen and decided to hang the meat in the storeroom for the new year. She carried the hen away, and I turned to go back to the west room to check on my uncle. The yard was empty except for me sitting alone on a small stool. Suddenly, I saw the mother bear staring fixedly toward the storeroom. Her mouth was slowly dripping saliva. When she realized I was watching, she turned her head. The look in her eyes became fierce, completely different from the obedient expression she usually showed. I did not dare stay alone in the yard anymore and ran straight to the storeroom where grandmother was cooking under the hanging hen. She told me to take the 2 cubs back to the pen so the mother bear could be near them. I was afraid, but under grandmother's glare, I picked up the 2 small cubs and carefully placed them in the enclosure. The mother bear crawled over and sniffed them all over with her nose. Then she lifted her head and glanced at me, as if she was calculating something in her mind. I did not dare meet her eyes and quickly ran back into the storeroom. Late at night, I again heard the mother bear making strange sounds, but my grandparents slept on and did not wake. I climbed onto the window ledge and peered outside, seeing my uncle inside the pen, leaning close to the bear. In the moonlight, 2 shadows overlapped on the ground. One looked like a man, the other like a bear, and when I rubbed my eyes, Uncle's shadow seemed to shift between human and animal. The bear's roar grew louder and louder until it finally woke my grandparents. Grandfather went to the window and looked outside. When he saw Uncle in the pen, his eyes widened with rage. He shouted that he would beat Uncle to death, but we clung to his arms and would not let him go out. Grandmother begged him, saying Uncle was almost 30 and needed to keep some face in front of others. She said that in a few more months, when they sold the bears, the money could be used to find him a good wife. Grandfather sighed helplessly, saying he could not let Uncle go on like this forever. But for now, he would turn a blind eye. Time passed, and the 2 cubs in our yard grew much larger, their fur shiny and black. Grandfather took them to town and sold them, then brought home a new set of clothes for Uncle. Uncle put on the clothes and smiled, asking why his father was suddenly treating him so well. Grandfather told him that he and grandmother had already arranged a match. A pretty girl named Liu Duo, 10 years younger than him, would come the next day to meet him. If the 2 of them liked each other, they could soon be engaged. My uncle's face suddenly went pale, and he told Liu Duo's father they had planned to give him the mother bear and all of the cubs as the bride price if he agreed. Hearing that, Liu Duo's father grinned from ear to ear, saying a bear like that was worth a lot of money. He asked my grandparents what they thought, and they forced a smile, saying that as long as Xuan Shan could marry Liu Duo, the bears could all be given as dowry. Liu Duo's father nodded again and again, calling it a good match, while the mother bear was loaded onto the mule cart, still turning her head to look at my uncle with deep, unreadable eyes. Enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more. Thanks.